that far close enough, or is that?
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
That's all good.
I think it sounds right from.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Kate. I've printed it off.
We got show notes.
I don't worry. I'm ahead of it. What? He can have it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're recording now, right? Anyway,
Can I record as well? Do you want me to record?
Oh, you can just for safety purposes, but I think it should be it should be completely fine on my end. All good.
Yeah. Do you guys then just chop it up and make little snippets for Instagram and that?
Yeah, we'll send you some stuff. Kate does all that, so she'll just send you some stuff and some videos and
Nice one, Kate.
all the rest of it. She can hear.
Oh, can you? G'day, Kate.
Hey, sorry, I'm just hiding in the background.
Because sometimes she'd always be listening to our podcast, but then she would just start talking without a mic. It's like, Kate, you need him.
When I ask a question,
we'll
it'd just be this void of silence.
We'll give her a mic now. Give her a bit of airtime.
Yeah, good.
She's like our, if you listen to Joe Rogan, she's our Jamie.
Oh, yeah, right. Jamie,
just look this up. All right, ready?
just kick it.
All right, and welcome to season 2, episode 51 of the Rebuild Health and Fitness podcast. Or episode
53.
No, we're going season 2, episode 1.
You said 51.
Did I?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to roll with it. Season 2, episode 1. This is to break it up because I think it's easier to search for this way. I've been looking at podcast stuff. Today is our first Sydney-based podcast, so we're flying high up, and we have a Brandon Hasick, Body by Brando. I'm excited to have Brando on. As soon as we got the new equipment, me and Sean, have so much respect for Brando as a whole, what he's doing. We were lucky enough to be in a business course with him, and he was just always just on the ball, way ahead of it. His content's amazing. He is a world-class coach in every sense of the world, and he coaches some world-class athletes, and now he's going on to coach world-class coaches themselves. So I'm really interested diving into this. We're going to talk about sort of how to maximize human potential, performance, and how we just breed top-notch results. But Brando, how are you?
Thanks for having me. That was an intro. Appreciate that.
So I'm all right with them. You know what I mean? Big people up.
Yeah, pump me up.
So, tell us a bit about yourself. So a bit about your background, how you grew up, etc.
Yeah, nice one. So grown up in Sydney my whole life, but I was more out in the burbs out west, as you can probably hear from the accent if you understand it. But yeah, grew up out there until I was about 20 odd, and I did my university degree at Western Sydney, which is in Campbelltown. So pretty much always been primed towards the industry of health and fitness, which was sparked from enjoying sport as a kid. Like that was just my outlet. I just played sport all day, every day. As many things as I could, mainly cricket and footy, NRL. And just that was my thing. I was just always into sport, and I was always injured though. And that was I was too small. I don't know what it was, but I just always roll my ankles, pop my shoulder out, get hurt, and just be off the field. And I just hated it. So I spent probably more time in the physio's office than I did on the field, to be honest, from about 10 onwards. And
it's from 10.
Yeah, I was just
right.
Yeah, you probably see it if you follow the Instagram, how flexible I am, and it's obviously a double-edged sword. It's great to have that mobility, but it comes at a cost. There's no stability in any of my joints, so that's a lifelong dream, is to feel stable.
Be stable.
What did you study at university?
I did exercise and sports science. Yeah. So the idea was to bridge across to physio. I really enjoyed a few physios that I went, when I was younger. So that was the passion, is to help people get out of pain and to get back on the field. And then as I started doing sports science, I sort of enjoyed it, and I started coaching just to get through as a part-time job through uni. And I enjoyed it. Then I came across some really good mentors where I was like, oh, this is actually a career. It's not just the boot camps and the shitty PTs you see at Globo gyms. There's people doing some pretty cool shit out there. And I just got down that rabbit hole of preventative training, strength and conditioning, and then holistic health, for lack of a better term. But I got stuck into it pretty deep.
So when you got into coaching, was that in sort of boutique gyms like yours, or did you start off in the traditional route, like PT and fitness first, and then sort of branched out from there?
I was still at Windsor when I got my Cert 3 and 4 from uni. Like you could just tick a few boxes and they'd give you your cert because I was like in my third year and done all the anatomy and physiology and stuff. And then I started training people it was a 24/7 gym, but it was a private one. It wasn't like a Fitness First or anything like that. And I started doing the boot camps there for them. So like tire flips, battle ropes, run around the block, like the standard boot camp. Sit-ups, push-ups probably weren't great form back then. And then I think I went overseas and studied over there to finish off my degree. And when I came back, I pretty much moved straight into Coogee, which is in the east, if you know Sydney.
Yeah, I jumped off Coogee Bay hotel roof and broke my leg. New Year's Eve.
Outstanding.
So, yeah, I know where it is, mate. If you next time you go there, look how high that roof is as well. It's not a short distance. I thought I was doing parkour. It didn't last very well. That's very true.
Oh, that's so good.
So yeah, Coogee.
I'll go check it out, Simon. Yeah, good. So yeah, I was living there, but I got a job at a Vision personal training in Rose Bay. And I started there. They do a 9-week internship type thing where they teach you how to train. And that was epic. Like from what I was doing to what they were doing was epic. But I still knew that I didn't want to be in that field of just, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12. Like I was starting to do a mentorship with Keegan at the time where I was really starting to learn about strength and conditioning that he was doing for athletes. And I was like taking it back to Vision, which was 3x10 push-ups and 3x10, leg presses. And I was like, the principles are kind of cool. And I learned a lot about nutrition, how to speak to clients and how to structure programs. But I was like, oh, cool. I'll take this and then I'll try and do my own thing.
Yeah.
Much more functional in inverted commas.
It was crazy back in the day with the rep range over anything. So not about the stretch you put on the muscle. As long as you're between these rep ranges, then that's how we'll get muscle growth. It's like as long as 8 to 12. Oh, I did 13. Fuck endurance. Like
done. Sorry, mate. You missed the mark on that one. Yeah, and that's it. And that's from coming from a science background and knowing that, it comes down to volume equals sets times reps times load. And you're like, well, yeah, but what about time and attention? And what about range? Like they have an impact on length of the muscle as well.
Yeah. So talking about so obviously, let's just talk a little bit more about yourself. You obviously own a couple of gyms in Sydney, Body by Brando.
That's the one.
Epic name.
Thank you.
That's it. We were going to do it like Sean by, Body by Sean, but he hasn't got a very good body. So we
incredibly broken and tight. Not a good marketing tool.
Yeah. I just I fell into it. I thought it was kind of cool at the time. I was like, alliteration, like as you can probably tell, the building better bodies is also 6 B's in the name. But yeah, I did like the name for a long time and I think I still do, but we potentially might even be looking towards a rebrand in like a year or two.
Yeah.
Just to sort of decentralize me from the brand a little bit, but not in a way like to get out of the brand, but more so to give credit to the other coaches and the actual brand that we've built.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be just me anymore. Like, yes, it's my philosophies and everything like that, but the guys are doing all the hard work and they're the ones, on the line. I think that comes across.
I think it comes across on your social media as well. You can see how much time are going into the other coaches.
Yeah.
Probably just rewind just a little bit. So, what year did you open your first gym, and how did it come about? Like, what was the point for you where you're like, all right, sweet, I'm going to do this on my own? Like, did you do it solo? Did you have any business partners? Like, how did this Body by Brando vision come to be?
Yeah. So when I left Vision and went to F45, and then while I was working there, because it was so far away from where I lived, I started coaching people in the backyard. So I had in Coogee or Clovelly, I had a 3x3 meter slab. And I met a guy who was a business coach at the time who ran a gym in Hobart, and he was doing a business course for $6,000. And I was like, oh shit, like I've never invested that much in anything in my whole life besides a trip to Europe. And I was like, shit, do I really want to do this? And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I think he can help me. And I had a big vision. Like I'm wear my heart on my sleeve type guy. And I had a vision that I really wanted to make this work. And I was like, well, this is the perfect time. So I paid the $6,000 and he helped me sort of understand the principles of business and setting up a gym. So I literally just set up a gym in my backyard, put a few things out there. Like I was posting pretty heavily on social media at the time, but he taught me how to sort of advertise a bit better on Facebook when they used to be the good old days of cheap leads. And I got my first sort of 5 clients off Facebook ads, and they all came around and started training. And then I just sort of grew legs and it kicked off. So I cut ties with F45 and I went full time in the backyard. So I was doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday at F45 and a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday in my backyard, until I sort of got to the stage where I had a number in my head. If I could make that in my backyard, then I would get rid of F45 and just go full time in the backyard. So yeah, like it sort of worked in that regards. I kept one foot in the door to keep my head above water and then took the plunge.
It's pretty cool to see, the progression that you've made through, you've got 2 gyms now with, I don't know if we can speak, the possibility of another one, is there?
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, if these solicitors can organise the lease, we should have one very soon. But
I mean, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And these are all based around Sydney?
Yeah, all in so Paddington, Waterloo, and hopefully Bondi in the next week.
Awesome.
I always find it's super interesting to hear from, gym owners and sort of top level coaches. Like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, it's a hard one. Hey, I have this debate all the time, whether it's like a selfish thing or whether it's altruistic, but I think it's both. Like I enjoy doing what I'm doing and I enjoy coaching because I get to learn as I go. And it's like, I think the biggest thing is when you've had an experience, you want to share it with people because you want everyone to be on the same level. And everyone's obviously got a confirmation bias around what they deem to be successful. But it's like, well, I know how good it feels to have freedom of movement, to not be restricted in what I can and can't do with my body and with my mind. And it's like, I just want to teach as many people that as possible.
I think it's a really good answer, and you're obviously doing that from past experience of injuries, which prevent just anything. And, then it's the mindset around injuries that you can't do anything, where realistically, you can, injuries aren't the end of the road.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that limitless of mindset, really. Like, because we talk about the 4 Ps, which we've sort of come up with, which is physique, performance, pain-free movement, and then perception. So physique is obviously you want to have that low body fat frame that has enough muscle mass to be capable of doing what you need it to do. We don't want everyone to be front cover of Men's Health magazine, but we want you to have low enough body fat that you don't have comorbidities and that you also are confident in what you look like. And it's functional to be lean. Fat is not functional. So therefore, like, it's just inhibiting what you really want to be doing. It's not because we like the look of people who have low body fat. It's because we know what having low body fat means to your performance. It means to your perception, and likelihood means to having pain-free movement. And they all sort of intertwine like a nice little Venn diagram. Like, you want to sit right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I think it's really, it's really interesting what you say. Obviously your gym is, you go people that want that percentage, they want that body fat, they want that ab, they want that performance. That's your target market, right?
Yeah, it has come about that way, that we do have a lot of people that do want that physique of having lower body fat, but we do sort of try and talk about it from both sides of the coin of, yes, it's advantageous to look a certain way if that makes you feel a certain way, but likewise performance, you're not going to be doing faster workouts or performing more with your body when you are 20% plus.
Yeah. So out of them 4 Ps, like if you had to put them in an order, for example, would you put them in the order? Like for us, a lot of the time when it comes to our nutrition business, the perception of health would probably come first before anything else.
Yep.
Is that how you look at it, or is that something you later look at after they start performing?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you sort of want to change your perception of reality to then be able to, change your identity and that hierarchy of identity shift. Yeah, we haven't really ever ordered them. It's just, it just is like they're all going to work together. So yeah, there probably is a perfect order, but we haven't found it.
It depends on the person as well, doesn't it? Someone's going to resonate with something like the physique style explanation. Other people will really click with the perception, but at the end of the day, they all sort of are connected and will flow towards the sort of common goal.
Exactly. And it's people are either drawn towards pleasure or away from fear. And sometimes just changing your language is all it needs. It's not about having the perfect order or the perfect structure. It's like learning how to communicate best for that person and whether or not they can or cannot understand.
So when we're talking about we're sort of talking about it a little bit now, but if we're talking about like maximizing human potential, which is something you talk about a lot, like physically and even from a philosophy standpoint, like where do we begin?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you want to we talk about fitness not just being the physical, but the mental as well. Like we just sort of mentioned then, the perception of what you can and can't do. So it's about having that freedom of movement, or for others, it's, the language change of not being restricted, because some people resonate better with like, I don't want to be restricted. Other people resonate better with, I want freedom, but they're exactly the same thing. So the idea is, if we can get people to live life without restrictions, the quality of life's going to be much better. So we talk about transforming the way you look, move, and feel. And we just set pretty ambitious goals to, be able to run 5Ks, to be able to deadlift double body weight, to be able to pull yourself over a chin-up bar, to be able to walk on your hands all in the same day. And if you can do those things, it's not about doing those things. It's about the things that you've done to get there that would have shaped who you are. And also, what else can you do if you can do those things?
I think it's a really interesting, I really like what you say about every human, that's the goal. We want people to be able to do that. But what about them people that just are a lot slower than others? They struggle more than others. They struggle psychologically, a lot more. It's like, oh, fuck, I really want to do these. These are the goals that set from the Brando, what we want. How about them people that just take that little bit longer just to play devil's advocate?
Yeah. And it is a good point. Like we've sort of come to terms with the fact that we aren't everyone's cup of tea, and I don't think you ever will be. Like you try and...
That's how it works, right? That's why it works.
That's why it works. Yeah. Like, and it's not a capitalistic approach. Like obviously there's benefits to being a niche in a business that separates, but it's like anything. People learn languages faster than others, and other people just don't even try. Yeah. It's, if you're trying to be totally altruistic, I don't think you're ever going to serve anyone.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Does anyone watch Love Island?
It's so pommy.
Listen, Jess has it on in the background. You know what I mean? Sometimes my eyes go that way, you know what I mean? But it's like, you are right in what you're saying. Like, we don't have to suit everyone. We're trying to help people that align with our values. So they had this thing on there last night where it was like, they all have to say biggest turnoffs. Like they all say biggest turnoffs. And all these women were like firing out things that they turn off. It might be like bold or not tall or high and stuff. But this one guy said, oh, I don't like fakeness, like as in like fake boobs and stuff. And everyone went mental. You can't say that. You can't do that. You know what I mean? You don't know the reasons why we do it. It's like
different strokes for different folks.
100%. I mean, why can everyone say that, but you can't say that? Your opinion on what you think.
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit different, but it just reminded me of that. I thought I'd just get it off my chest.
Yeah. No, that's it. And I think there's a continuum. So like everything I talk about, things in continuums. So there's either one end of the spectrum where you're totally elite athletes, right? So there's people that are working totally on elite athletes.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, you're working on people with, who are decrepit. Like, so there's physio for that, and there's programs at the end of the scale. We're sort of sitting towards the more advanced end of the scale, but it's not to say that someone who is on their journey might not be there in 4 or 5 years. And hopefully we're seen more as a guiding star than an outlier.
Yeah.
It's not like we can never get there. It's like, oh, that's the pinnacle. And that's what we want to sort of achieve.
Yeah. I really, really resonate with that a lot, because over the last sort of 12 months, or even longer, we've sort of been refining who like we enjoy working with most and who we want to, we help. And we had this, like, for a period of time, we're like, we just want, mums and dads, like brand new, like come into the gym. Like these are the people we really want to help.
Because they were the people that we were getting.
Yeah. And it was like, but the people we got for a period of time were people who'd never done any sort of training before. And they were like, it was such hard work that it wasn't like, those who are with us now are now doing really, really well. But it was just that extra effort that it took away from the other members within the class. And then we sort of refined that to like, we're sort of where people come next.
Yeah.
So we got those other little gyms, boutique gyms within our area that aren't on our level. And once people sort of reach their potential there, they're like, what's next? And what's next? And it sounds like you're sort of in a similar boat to like, people might start off at like, PT, and then they get bored of that, go to like F45, and they're like, oh yeah, I really want to reach another level. And it's like, By Brando.
100%. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly how we position ourselves, is like that next level, because people need that to look forward to. But at the same time, we've created a level method where we've stepped out 10 levels for across about 35 different modalities. So we can take people from 0 to hero, but it's generally the perception that holds them back. And it's that they don't want to be involved with, being the underdog for so long. They want to get to a level of fitness before they start, which is, you hear that all the time, don't you? I'm not fit enough. I'll get fit, then I'll come see you guys. Now we don't get rich before you go see your accountant. Like, you don't get rich before you start investing.
I think it's just about explaining, the stimulus of what you're actually trying to do with the program. Like, it's not necessarily about that exercise selection as a whole. It's about the stress that you're trying to cause.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's just giving people different options based on where they are at their journey and what they need. But I mean, everything we do is infinitely scalable, and the movements don't matter as such. Like you said, it's about the stimulus that you can provide, and you can always regress and progress to create relative intensity for each person. But whether or not someone's willing to jump into a gym where everyone is sort of at that top end is going to be up to them, I suppose.
I suppose it is up to them, because your vision is long term for them too. You don't want people to come to Body by Brando, same as a rebuild, that are going to stay for a few months and leave. Like, that's not what we're about. Go to, if that's what you want. Like, I promise you, we're not the gym for you. No, we're talking years. We want you here for years, and we guarantee that when the time you leave or years down the line, you're going to be in that position.
Exactly.
We're just not going to sell the dream that's going to happen overnight.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the benefit of that? Like, short-term intensity, never even compares to long-term consistency. So
our members are probably going to be nodding our head along that, because we say it like all the bloody time as well. Obviously, like similar to us, you've been in this game a while now. You would have tried many different training methodologies, incorporated all kinds of different things into your gym. What are some of the things that you've tried, maybe not stuck with over the years, and then tried and are now like an established part of your programming? Like, I know, we tried a little bit of like strong fit style work. Obviously, CrossFit shaped our gym quite heavily, but it was always anchored towards like general S&C principles. But even they've sort of evolved to like, hey, maybe we can try some like outer range strength stuff. Like, what about you guys?
Yeah, well, my journey started with typical bodybuilding splits, like, your leg days, chest days, like the best.
Good old days.
Good old.
I wish I did more chest days than leg days.
Yeah, same actually. I've got pigeon chest and fucking big thunder thighs.
That's it.
And then I went through a bit of a gymnastics phase there where I was really into doing handstands. I think I could just, I started doing them when I was a kid. So then I just had that base where I could do handstands. I didn't have a pretty handstand, but then I started meeting people who taught me that, you can just clean it up. And I really enjoyed that and the flexibility side for a while. So I think you do generally go towards your strengths to start with. But yeah, like you said, now looking at other ranges, so outer range strength, we've incorporated a lot more outer range into our program. So we do strength through range is what we call it. That's our targeted flexibility, for lack of a better term. And then we go into our strength, and then we go into our conditioning, which is inspired more so by the CrossFit methodology than anything else. The reason why we don't call ourselves CrossFit is because we wanted that. We didn't want to be pigeonholed with that because we do have a few different principles. Like, they generally prioritize the intensity factor first. They talk about the WOD of the day, the workout of the day, whereas we bias more towards the strength component. So strength through range and then strength principles. So we have a much more periodized strength program than you typically find in a CrossFit gym.
Yeah, beautiful. Maybe you can just touch on, what does the strength through range mean for you guys?
So we talk about being able to hit a given range. So the biggest range of motion that you can possibly get. So that's a combination of both passive range, and then what we want to do is be able to produce force in that range. So to be able to actively create tension with the muscle. So the two examples you could give there is you can touch your toes. So that'd be passive. So gravity is helping you get into that position to touch your toes. But if you tried to get your knee to your nose standing up, it's a lot different. It's very hard. So you can try it now. If you're listening to this, you can try and kick your leg up as high as you get. You're probably going to get to your hip, your belly button, maybe your chest. You're very advanced if you can get your knee on your nose without having to pull it in. So that's the difference. So we talk about the combination of having both, because it talks about having less inhibition, say for this example, in the hamstrings. You've obviously got quite long hamstrings if you can get that range actively. And then we want to talk about the active flexion of, the hip flexors and the rec fem. So by having that control in active and passive range, then you should have more control across the way your body works.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love that.
Yeah, I think range of motion is big. Even if you're looking into like hypertrophy now, if you look at like Mike Israeli's stuff around hypertrophy, everything's done through such a big range of motion.
Yep.
I suppose the argument sometimes would be to do with strength and staying tight. You see a lot of kickers in rugby, they've gotten relatively short hamstrings, so they can generate a little bit more power with their kick. Yeah. So obviously it's going to come down to an individual standpoint, but I totally agree. I mean, you can only be beneficial from getting stronger through a bigger range of motion.
Exactly. And then for the hypertrophy standpoint as well, like we know that strength through range, by putting more stress across the myofibrils, like you're going to get more adaptation because of those micro tears that need to be adapted by coming back stronger. So when we talk about inner range versus outer range, which Keegan and Ben Patrick talk about, knees over toes guy, they're the ones who've really been putting a lot of work in this range, which makes a lot of sense, is the hormonal change from inner range work. So like, doing bicep curls without that stretch across the forearm. And then by doing, say, incline dumbbell curls where you feel that tendon getting pulled and stretched, it puts a lot more tension through the muscle, and therefore there's more breakdown and destruction. When there's more destruction, there's generally more construction as you build.
Yeah. I always think it's different through the phases. You sort of go from, I suppose, like this Dunning-Kruger effect, from like when you're a beginner, you get taught a certain way, like seated row. I know you can't see if you were listening now, but like seated row, nice and open, you pull, but people are usually being dragged. So you're like, no, shut your scouts back, let's pull. But then as you get more advanced, you'll end up going bigger
really
range, reaching really bigger, greater ranges of motion. But I suppose it's like, how early do you teach something like that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Hey, it's like you want to start basic and then move towards complexity later on, and you can always add layers. But it's a diverse world when you start training, isn't it? It's like,
that's the thing too, right?
The stock market. You don't jump in and start trading on screens and like picking things. Like you got to understand the global or the macro first. Just get in and start doing something. You're going to figure it out by doing.
But obviously Keegan, one of your mentors, someone that I've never actually spoke to Keegan or anything, but I do follow him on social media. He's been around the block for a long time. I got into juggling and things this year. So you do more than, a lot of strength with him. Like it is a great range of motion. I know that you're like a 5-ball juggler? Give you on 5 balls?
No, 4.
4. Yeah.
4. Yeah, I tried 5. I'm trying 5. I haven't put enough effort into it lately, but it's very, very hard.
I started juggling from seeing you and Tim, and I was like 2. I was like, okay. And then going to 3, I was like, fuck, I'm never going to do it. And going to 3, I thought, if I can do 3, I've mastered 4. Picked up a 4th ball. I was like, no, this is mental.
I can't even do 2.
Like it's, you pick up my balls now and again. But what's the importance of things like that? Like, is that just, obviously there's them neural pathways as well, but is that just to add a little bit of fun to things, a little bit of complexity as well?
Yeah, fun, complexity, neuroplasticity is definitely a big part of it, but it's more so the mental resilience. So when people say they can't, it's often fun to say yet after it.
Yeah.
So I can't do this. And if you just go yet, then they go, oh yeah, shit. Like, and they start to really change their perception of what they can and can't do. Yeah. Because if someone's done it before, then you can definitely do it after them. Like we're all humans. So therefore, if one human has done it, then there's probably likelihood that someone else could do it too.
Well, we see this all the time. It's called something. It's like when Roger Bannister ran their first, 4-minute mile. And we've just seen Iptogi run the 2-hour marathon. I guarantee that 2-hour marathon will get broke over this next 5 or 10 years. There was that woman 2 weeks later, they did like a 2-hour 1-minute marathon.
That's hectic.
Without all the stuff.
Without all
the Roger Bannister theory.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to yourself. Like obviously we apply it to other people. Once someone does something, we all start doing it, but then you can apply it to your own world and start to see marginal gains in that respect. So if you start going, I can do this one thing, I learned how to juggle today. So therefore I must have the capacity to do other things that I used to think that I couldn't do as well. And then that's where the real marginal gains and daily habits start to kick in and become exponentially better at life.
Yeah, it's so true. Sometimes you just need to see like that the outliers do it for you to think, shit, that's possible. Like I remember like I was probably like 13, 14, me and a bunch of mates went down to a quarry, and it was like the drop was probably not as big as I think, but it was like, it was just like, fuck, is this too high to jump? And then someone did it and he got out okay. Then everyone was like, oh, sweet. Everyone off the cliff.
Hectic, hey. It's part of life. And that's what I think I like being that guinea pig for people, is being like, well, I can do it. So you can, it's very cliche to say that, like, oh, I can do it. So you can do it too. It's very, cliche way of looking at things. But for me, I enjoy doing that, like setting myself challenges, because I just enjoy the discipline of like seeing what it takes to achieve it. Then I like going back and creating the pathway for other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, there's something powerful about walking the walk, and you're obviously a leader within your community. So, you got to practice what you preach in essence, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
It is exciting about human potential, human performance. I always have this conversation with clients and members about how different can humans be. Like you speak about like the central governor theory, but you got people like Ross Edgley that swam around the whole of the UK. You've got Eddie Hall who does 500, kilo deadlifts. You've got Togi, and I get a genetic thing comes into it, but I was like, how fucking different are we as humans? Where, they're running ultra marathons, but your only goal is to run 3K. Like, we should be greater than this. You know what I mean? I get that that's an initial goal, but it's like, how fucking different are humans as a whole?
Yeah, we're making that gap very broad, aren't we? From people who are, it's like that, the bell curve is just getting almost, the standard deviation of the bell curve is getting wider and wider.
Yeah.
There's some outliers, but then, people are sort of falling on that continuum at different rates.
You spoke about like some of the, like you try a lot of different things. And I know you've had a great deal of experience with a bit like playing around with meditation, ice baths, saunas. Like, why do you think, utilizing these other little recovery methods, or even just from a mental standpoint, why are they so important? Like, what have you seen the most benefit from trying them?
Yeah, I put up a post yesterday about this. I fucking hate meditating and I hate ice baths, but I try and do them every day because for that exact reason, that I just hate them. Like, I'm like, if this is the worst thing that I'm going to go through today, then the rest of my day is probably going to be pretty good. And that's pretty much the only thing. Like, meditation helps me a lot because, I'm very busy in the mind, which I'm sure most people probably are. And for me, I'm like, if that's 10, 15 minutes that down regulates my body for the rest of the day, then it helps me be calm. Therefore, I can give more calm to other people. The ice bath is literally just a test of willingness for me. And it's the same thing that I just talked about with I want to do it first to show that people can do it and create more of that path of like, that's one more thing you said you couldn't do. Let's add that to the list of things now that you can do.
So a lot of your, there's what I'm hearing, like a lot of it's about just creating that self-discipline in itself.
Yeah.
That'll go a long way.
Yeah. If you can create discipline, like you're going to create freedom. And that's what Jocko Willink talks about.
Yeah.
I haven't read a lot of his stuff, but that one quote resonates really well with me, is that discipline to show that you can do something will create freedom in other areas of your life.
He's mental, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's mental.
Listening to him, he did a podcast with like Jordan Peterson, and I knew of Jocko, but I didn't understand like where he's come from. And some of his podcasts is just him by himself for like 5-6 hours reading a book and talking about the book as he goes. Is like, shit.
Yeah,
you're a different human.
Yeah, people get warped realities after time, don't they?
Oh yeah.
So obviously, just going like, what do you think everything's teachable? Like, what can you teach people, and like, what can't you teach people?
Yeah, it's a good one. Hey, because it comes back to that. Is it genetic? As humans, we're physiologically not too different. There's, things that can change and things that can't change. I'm under the opinion that everything is a skill, therefore everything can be learned, but it's how much you prioritize the willingness to learn that skill. For example, language. Like, how many people in the world can speak multiple languages? It's a massive percentage. Like, people, either whether they're born with it, like their family speak 2 languages and they learn, therefore we have the capacity to learn more than one language. But then people that learn languages later on in life, it's like, you can do it. It's whether or not you prioritize the time and the effort, and probably your pre-environmental context as to what you've done in the past is going to make that easier or harder. But everything is a skill, therefore everything can be learned.
Yeah, I suppose you can only get better from trying at the start.
Yeah. And it's probably the friction that stops most people. Like, it might take you 6 months and it might take me 9 months. if I wasn't willing to do the 9 months, I probably wouldn't get started at all.
Yeah, and it's probably something that people don't really appreciate. Like anything you do, there's going to be a level of like challenge to it. So we spoke about, the difference between people running the ultra marathons and people running the 3Ks, and people are always like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But the person who started running the ultra marathons never thought they could do that either. But we just don't comprehend the 6, maybe like 10 years of training that's led them to be able to achieve that. Like, we're so short-sighted and sort of that element. We're always we want everything now. And I suppose you get that a great deal from, or deal with your, like, similar to us, the expectations of your clients. Like, like, how do you have those conversations with them, and how do you manage their expectations when they may have these outlandish goals initially that you need to sort of rein them in a little bit and set more like short-term achievable goals or actionable steps for them to hit before they start moving towards that greater goal?
Yeah, I'm actually probably not the best person at this, which is why I don't really coach anymore. I find it very hard and difficult to relate to people that don't see the long-term vision. So that's why I've sort of stopped coaching, and I get very frustrated quite quickly, as I'm sure anyone who's ever worked with me will know that. Like, I don't have a lot of patience for people that don't see the same vision that I do.
Yep.
So I tend to stop working with individual clients now. I don't actually have any. So I have one client that I just enjoy training. And it's for that reason, is because I find it hard when people don't understand the concept of marginal gains and or compound interest. And so I generally just float ideas out there and hoping that, it eventually sprinkles down and someone understands the concept. I don't enjoy having to preach to someone to listen and to do it. It's like, I'm willing just to put out information and content. And if it resonates, eventually, hopefully you understand it and you're willing to try something better than what you did yesterday. But for me, I'm not one to sit there and hold someone's hand while they come up with excuses as to why or why not.
That's a good answer, man. I appreciate like you being very straightforward. That some people probably would have tried to bullshit that, but yeah, it's good that, it's really interesting that you're just like bang on with what you want, which is probably why myself and James like really sort of admire what you do, and like really looked up to what you were doing when you were with NPE, and sort of like, like, fuck, Brando's got it down pat. We're getting on that train. Is that why you sort of transitioned into like creating your coaches course now? So you don't necessarily need to be the man on the front line?
Yeah, that too. And I was just about to say as well, like, I started coaching coaches and I started coaching business owners as well, thinking that it would make me more fulfilled and that I'd have more depth to the conversations with people that were potentially looking to do more. However, I've just found it's just shifted the outcome. People in business are still on the exact same continuum as people in health. It's like, there's always going to be people who are leaders and people who are laggards. And even with business coaching, I've actually just sort of told a few of them that I want to sort of reduce the number of hours that I spend with them, or even just ask them to not do it anymore, because there's still the same excuses that come up and the same lack of willingness to do the work. And for me, it just doesn't make me happy, and it doesn't help them by me getting frustrated at them. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's not saying that I only hang out with people that, invest long-term and things like that. But it's just, I wasn't helping them. So I just asked them to not want to work with them anymore and potentially to try another path.
Yeah.
Because if it is really what you want, you'll do the compound interest formula until you get there.
Can you explain the compound interest?
So just by, being like 1% extra every day, like, people aren't willing to, if you haven't done this before, do it. It's easy with financials, but it works across the other facets of life, is to go to the compound interest formula on Google and type in, 10% on $1 over 20 years. And you just look at the interest formula grow, and you look at the first 5 years and it doesn't actually grow that much. But when you get to the year 7, 10, 15, 20, it's exponential on what you can and can't achieve. And it comes back to things like running 3Ks. 3Ks on day one, people go, well, I'm never going to run a marathon, therefore I'll stop.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you look at 2 years down the track, it would have been 15Ks.
Yeah. I love that. I think I'll take it back to jiu-jitsu. That's probably where it definitely humbled me up a little bit, because I went into jiu-jitsu thinking like, fuck, I'm an ex-rugby player. I'm a bit of an athlete. I'm strong. So I went in there thinking, rock star.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything, like nothing. And you realistically spend the first 6 months, it actually made me just getting choked out, getting beat up to an absolute pulp. Just day in, day out, and then you'll start to survive a little bit. You just get a little bit better. Then you gradually, but the majority of people that start jiu-jitsu quit within the first 6 months, within the first 3 months. They don't even give it a chance. They don't even put in that work to eventually enjoy. There's just so short-term gratification.
Exactly. And I mean, I saw you blue belt grade the other day, and I was like, stoked for it. That was cool when you did that. And I was like, it's good to see, because I haven't started jiu-jitsu yet, and there's probably something holding me back. So, I'm not perfect, and you can't be expected to do everything in your whole life. So I hope people don't take away the fact that I think I'm perfect at long-term gratification here. But it's like, I probably haven't started jits because I'm worried that I won't be the best at it from day one as well. So I haven't even started the journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many continuums. People aren't even on the continuum.
Yeah. And ego lets you down so much. I mean, back in the day where I was at my fittest, where we would all, work out CrossFit like 4 or 5 hours a day, and we were in that. I was coaching at a gym time in the city, and I wouldn't even do the open in front of them because I was embarrassed of what they would think about my score, even though I was the fittest I ever was, but ego just completely ruined me.
It happens a lot, and we see it a lot. And the same thing, you can probably look at even what I'm doing and what you guys are doing. It's like, you're the best you've ever been, which is definitely something you should be grateful for, but also never satisfied. Like, that's why we still get coaches. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are doing so well with business and everything you're doing, but you still invest in yourself to be better. And it's because you value becoming better at business and then helping more people. Same way that I still get coached by a lot of people, is because I constantly want that next belt or the next rung.
We spoke about this literally before the podcast, didn't we, with Ruben, about contentment and happiness and how it's just not on a continuous. Like some days I'll come into work and I'm so content and happy. Other days I'll just want to blow the place up. And it's the same in every area of my life. Same with happiness. It's like, are you happy? It's like, right now I am having a good conversation, but in an hour it could be a different fucking story. Depends who's there when I open my eyes in the morning. But I think people just look for this continuum, like, I'm happy, therefore. Do you know what I mean? Just like plain trajectory up.
Yeah, like it's linear.
Yeah, you got problems if it's linear, or you're not. Well, good on you. I hope you're well.
Yeah.
Nah, you're fucking full of shit. You're alive.
If they do, then send us the cheat codes.
Yeah. So obviously you're massive on personal development. It's something that you continually do. How do you think that helps you and evolve? Because obviously people come to our gyms and they do pay a premium for a premium package. And I've noticed when I've done personal development myself, realistically, the more you pay, the better the outcome is.
Yeah.
And it's not about just always taking that cheaper and quickest route. It's about really investing into yourself. And when with our gym, and I'm sure your gym, like we will refuse quite a lot of people entry to our gym, not maliciously. We'll just say this gym isn't for you, or in a nutrition program, like this isn't.
You're not ready.
This isn't for you. And ethically, we stand at this line. And how important is that to be? Well, you'll know, to be completely sort of open and honest with yourself and always looking to better.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a never-ending train, isn't it? You can always learn something else, and when you think you can't learn the next step, it's generally when you start to either fail downwards or at least just plateau. It happened all the time. Like even with MPE, I was like, oh no, I know some of this stuff, and then you get humbled every time you come into a session. You're like, oh no, I did learn something today. And I think that approach to life is like, you can still learn something, and by doing professional development, you're just downloading other people's information straight into your brain without having to do the work.
Yeah.
That's why I think professional development's massive. It's like, you can read a book and you can read someone's 50 years of knowledge in like a week.
Yeah.
You can't, how can it negatively affect you? So therefore it's only upside.
Yeah. It's so true. There was, Tim Grover was speaking on, I think, Andy Frizella's podcast, and they were speaking about like this old Russian chess champion, and he was coming up against this young U-Butte kid, and he's like, oh, what do you think? How's it going to go? And he just went, oh, he's younger than me. And then they sort of dug into it a little bit deeper. And this chess grandmaster, he's like written all these books with, all these strategies, and it's taken him a lifetime to learn. And this young kid read them in an hour.
Yeah.
You learn all these counter moves and all these moves that had taken this grandmaster a lifetime to learn. And just by picking up this book, he's like, oh, if I'm ever in this situation, I can do that. He didn't have to learn by experience. He had the the benefit of the knowledge in a book. And yeah, like you said, like you can gain 50 years of knowledge in a week if you put your head in a book and read.
Exactly. And you just keep doing it. And then you only have to look at technology advancements over the last 100 years to see how exponential it is. And you can do the same thing with your own brain. Like they've gone from massive TV to now like handheld computers, which do everything. Like if you apply the same philosophy to your brain and body, you can understand a lifetime worth of shit in like a year, 10 years, 15 years.
Now with podcasting, like wasn't it like 7-8 years ago?
Exactly.
Even from a research standpoint, when I was in university, you'd have all these researchers and then you'd have to go and read these papers. But now I follow them on social media. It's great. It's saving so much time. But
which
go on.
Which is a vortex in itself. Like obviously we're confirmation biased by nature. So we believe whatever's in our face. So if we are reading books, you're hoping that the books that you're reading are probably more viable because they are a book and they've stood the test of time of being stated as true. But now we have like social media, which is like, if you follow certain people and that's all you follow, then you're going to go down that rabbit hole. Like look at carnivore, look at vegan, like it's very, you start getting in those algorithms, but also the algorithms of life of who you hang around. If you hang around people who do certain things, you're going to start thinking that way. So yeah, there's no right or wrong, I suppose. You've got to decide what information you're getting and then keep what you think is valuable and then disregard the rest.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to everything in there. Like,
yeah.
Love it. And people that pay, I always like
it's the best thing you ever told me.
What?
That people that pay attention.
Yeah, people that pay attention. Yeah. You know, that's the big one. Like when we did a price rise here, like a pretty decent one, like a couple of years ago. And so we were obviously a little bit worried, a little bit emotional about like, oh, this price rise coming in, asking for more money. But we've never seen that many people in the gym training more consistently.
Yeah.
You know, the same with your personal development, I suppose.
100%. Yeah. Like what we pay for the NPE course is like, 20 grand for the year. And you showed up most weeks and made sure you listened and made the most of it. Yeah. Same with the fitness. It's like, if you're paying $7 memberships, if it all it took was to go to a gym and be fit, like why is the Australian population 60% fat and obese? Like that's why our gym, like we charge a premium and it's not far to look. Like you don't have to look far to see that most of our guys are less than 14% body fat and can do some pretty epic shit with their bodies.
Just rock up. Just on that, I don't know if he's still there now because he's quite he travels quite a bit. But one of our old members, I think he's maybe with you or maybe just dropped in, Lewis Brake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trained with us.
Yeah. He's a legend.
He lived down the road from us and then, mate, yeah, epics. Yeah. He's great bloke.
Yeah. Big unit.
You seen him on a rower?
Yeah. He pulls hard. Yeah. He's done some workouts with me. Like I've trained with him a few times and he's a weapon.
Mate, he was like nearly went to the Olympics for sailing. And I was like, oh, there's no way this guy's going to be much of an athlete. And the training he used to do for sailing was fucking ridiculous. And he could you're
in a little boat, mate. Give it a rest.
Yeah. What are you're overachieving for no reason.
We had this
get a yacht
workout. We have this workout here on like the Rogue sort of eco bikes. It's 5 rounds of like 20 seconds work, like 3 minutes rest. And the sort of gold standard that we always thought, is seems quite doable is get 100 calories. And he's like the only person I've ever seen do it within like 4 rounds. Most people like start off really well and then they just hit a wall and end up around like that 75, 80. And I think he probably got like 200 calories in 5 rounds. Beast.
Yeah.
So with your coaches, obviously you've gone on to coaching coaches, which I do want to have a look at your course as well for something that, we could possibly use down the line because, people are coming out there cert 3s and 4s and realistically it's like learning how to drive. It means so little, the entry into our industry is so low, so to have someone create a course. So what are people getting from your course?
Yeah, the entry point is quite low, which is a good thing. Like it's not fair to sort of say like, oh, you have to do a university degree because if you don't, you're not passionate about the industry. Like if that was the limit, I mean, whether you're for or against that, I'm probably more for that, seeing that you should have a great understanding of anatomy and physiology before you do start to take people's lives into your hands. And it's debatable because people are like, well, I just want to do battle ropes and kettlebell swings. And therefore you probably don't need much education for that. But that's the standard of the industry, is there's not too many people that know more than that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And they
So
talk a lot of shit, even though they don't know a lot.
Yeah, they make a lot of noise without much. Yeah. And it comes down to they're probably not getting results. And the end of the line should be that you get results for your clients and not just busy. So we talk about, productivity in business. You want to be productive, not busy. But yet fitness is often seen as just being productive. I mean, just being busy. Like if you're just training for 60 minutes a day, then that's the goal. But that's not the goal. The goal is to be, change your physique, change your performance, change your pain-free movement, and change your perception. So they're the goals that we benchmark our training off. And we have to make sure that our stimulus provides the adaptation to those 4 key areas, that we're not just battle roping and doing star jumps, because that's not going to change anything.
So many people come to us, so many people that have come from other gyms, and they're doing 10, 12 sessions a day, double sessions. They're doing so much.
Yeah.
And my first sentence is, physiologically, you will not be able to do that here.
Yeah.
Or you can't.
Yeah, they say, can I do double sessions?
You mean 10 to 12 sessions a week, right?
Yeah.
So a day.
No, so 10 to 12 sessions a week. Yes, double sessions.
Time for that.
Right. Yeah. double sessions daily, because they just think more is better.
Yeah, more is
exactly.
More is better, but better is better. So yeah, why would you want to do that from any standpoint? If you were targeted on results, there would be no reason to. If there was correlation between results and time in the gym, then potentially, yeah, you do fucking 18 hours a day, but there's not. There's only so much and it comes down to the stress on your body. You're obviously not putting enough stress onto your body to create adaptations if you're having to do 12 sessions a week.
Yeah.
And if you are, what are the results?
Yeah. So just, I know we got a little bit sidetracked, but yeah, with your coaching course, what's the sort of point of difference, and what can sort of coaches look to get out of it?
So we do, the idea is to bridge that gap between doing a Cert 3 and 4 course and universally qualified knowledge of anatomy and physiology, but also the other stuff that we've learned along the way, which is what we call the 6 elements of coaching. So it's, being able to teach, see, correct, how to manage a group, and then provide that articulation for the client. So we talk about the ability to diagnose clients' issues, to be able to design programs, and then to be able to deliver those programs effectively. So that's a very short intro to what we do, but we've got about 50 modules in which targets those specific areas. I do have the course outline here, but I won't get it up.
I love the fact that delivery is a part of it as well. It's such a big part that's just completely missed out a lot of time. Even when it comes to nutrition courses, no one actually teaches you how to hold a consultation or how to actually speak to the human. They just teach you the principles and the science behind it. From someone that's hired so many people over the years in old roles, people will send me resumes and they've got every qualification under the sun, and they get them in and they're like a fucking smack wood on the head. It's I'd rather someone that's good and out there that, can hold a room together, and then we can teach them how to be a better coach.
We talk about soft skills versus hard skills. And when we hire, so we've defined all this, part of the MPE process was really great at teaching us that as well. But the book Systemology, if you read that, everything you do should be able to be defined and systemized. So that's what we've spent the last 4 years probably trying to really define what it is that we do as a business for both clients and coaches. So we have always the outcomes that we define. Part of that is soft skills, being able to have charisma, how to run a room, communicate. And then the hard skills of obviously being able to see poor movement patterns and then fix them. So I'll just pull this up. Here's the outcomes of the course. So that we start with communication and consulting. Like you said, that's probably the most important part of being an educator or being a facilitator of health is, can you have the conversations with the client that you need to have? Can you articulate clearly what needs to happen for them to get the result? Too many people start with just delivering a program they saw on Instagram. So you talk about providing motivation, but if you could figure out someone's drivers, they won't need the motivation. You don't need to be standing there screaming at them. You can just provide the program and they can do it themselves. So then we go down the elements like I talked about, the seeing, correcting, those type of things, and teach people how to actually provide that delivery of the session. We talk about common faults, regressions, and scaling for relative intensity. So making sure that if you've got grandma in there and you've got Commando Steve, that they're going to both get relative intensity workout. So they'll probably end up doing the same movements or a regression or progression of that movement. We don't really change the workouts by kind. We just change them by stimulus.
Yeah.
So Commando Steve, I don't even know why that name came to my head then. But he might be doing, Fran, for example, 21-15-9 thrusters and pull-ups. Granny might be doing getting off the chair 5 times and then putting her arms above her head 3 times. Like, she's going to be sore as shit tomorrow, and so's the athlete.
Yeah.
And then we go into like programming and things like that, how to program for advanced, but also strength and conditioning. And then we talk about a lot of anatomy and physiology in there too.
This sounds great. I think it's definitely, something that I probably wish I had back in the day.
Yeah.
Definitely
a little bit more, just like you said, just everything under one roof there. But this has been good. So what would you be last couple of questions, what would be like your key takeaways? Someone listen now, someone wants to get going, someone wants to become that 1%. They want to be able to deadlift double body weight. They want to be able to run 5K. Like what advice would you give to this person, or where would they start?
Yeah. As cliche as it sounds, getting started is probably the best step. Like, action creates momentum, doesn't it? You can have as much motivation in the world as you want, but until you actually take that first step, it's not going to drive any momentum. So getting started and actually prioritizing doing some research and finding people like you guys. There's probably like you guys and what I do in each city or town to some extent. You've got to do your research to find someone who actually believes in what you want to achieve. Trying to find the cheapest personal trainer or the cheapest gym and expecting a different result to what you got last time, probably not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. If I get an email through and you're getting where it's like, hey, how much is it? I'm like, well, this is already the wrong conversation to be.
Yeah, we're having the wrong conversation.
We're already, the likelihood that you're going to sign up here is pretty low.
Yeah.
Because you've not done it, you just asked for a price. And
that's the thing. I've always gone down that path as well. I try and teach my coaches now, like obviously you will get those messages generally because people, they don't understand how to ask. So they're just going to ask the first question that comes to their head. So I used to write all those people off and be like, oh, fuck this is going to be a shit conversation. But now I try and communicate with them better and say, which of these are you looking for most? And I give them like 3 options and then try and just deflect the conversation away from price, because it's not going to help if someone says, how much is it? And I go, $97 a week. They're going to be like, all right, conversation is done. If you actually find out what they're looking for, and then they start to understand themselves that there's a big gap between where they are and where they want to be, that $97 starts to become a little bit redundant if they really care.
Yeah. And it's usually the people that are brand new that will say that because they don't know the value of good training, good strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
They're harder to sell for, like brand new people rather than people that have been around that block a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Anything else?
No, mate. Thank you very much for your time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm glad we got to spend an hour or so chatting. Normally our conversations were limited to a few bits of banter over Zoom with Sean and Rick and the boys.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Really respect what you do. Where can people find you?
I'm at Body by Brando, pretty much most things at the moment. So Body by Brando on Instagram is probably the best one that we use most.
Yeah. So there's Body by Brando, which is you personally, and there's Body by Brando Gyms, which is
the gyms.
Your gyms. But I highly advise you to go and follow him and keep up to date with his content. He's as consistent as they can be. I look at it and go, oof.
And he's super bendy.
Makes me feel bad. I'm like, I don't want to do a post, but super consistent. I really appreciate your time, mate. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was great.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, boys.